Hello, I'm Toycat, and we just got a brand new snapshot, and here are all of the new features found inside of it, or if you prefer chests, right here. But what's interesting is the amount of Mayhem has so much going on, but I want to give my first impressions by answering the 10 most important questions that I had going into the snapshot. And so if you want to know the most valuable information first, here is the video for you, because the spear is obviously a long-range weapon, but how much worse than a sword is it, where it counts, and will it be able to break blocks in creative? What about the Nautilus? How fast does that go? What happens when it's on land? Can you cure a zombie version? Also, the zombie horse has a lot of questions, and I've got some answers. And most importantly, the zombie spear, is it something you should fear? Let's go and answer all of that today, starting with the first question: how much range does a spear have? So here's a little test I put together, showing you that I can attack from about 2.5 blocks away and actually land damage on this armor stand. Once I get more than 2.5 blocks away, behind this red block, you can see that I'm not going to be able to do that effectively. So I've got myself just under 3 blocks of range with a regular sword, but when I use a spear, I can still attack when I can't do so with the sword, and in fact, it does a little jump, which is fun, but I can do this all the way back an extra couple of blocks further away, meaning you get closer to a 5-block range, so you get an extra 60% range over your regular sword when using a spear, which is massive. And so what is the downside here? Well, I put together all of the powerful weapons in Minecraft and their damage. The brackets is their damage on Java. Did you know so many weapons are wildly different? But what's interesting is, obviously, for this weapon to be a super powerful netherite alternative, to have so much range, it obviously needs to have some form of nerf. And what is that? Well, on Java it could be attack speed, and that is true too, to be clear. This does 5 damage and has 0.8 attack speed. That's about half of what the netherite sword does on both categories, so that means you're doing just over half the damage at just over half the speed, meaning your damage per second is about 1/3 of a sword. This is handy if you're at a range where you can't be attacked back, but if you can, you're giving up 66% of your effectiveness for basically no reason. So this is going to be a horrible jabbing PvP weapon, and you know, unless you're in the right situations, and ultimately it is the charge attack that is going to make this worthwhile, and the charge attack is a very interesting part of it because it's based on your momentum. I think that right now the charge attack isn't necessarily powerful enough to justify it. Okay, I'm sorry friend, didn't mean to do that to you, but it is something that you should be questioning. Speaking of questioning, will we be able to break blocks in creative using the spear? This is something I immediately had to know, and so I switched over to creative, and just like with a sword, where you try to break blocks and it won't let you, you cannot break blocks with a spear, kind of hinting that yes, this is a combat weapon like the mace or the trident. It's not like the axe where you can still break blocks. Very, very interesting. And yeah, let's next talk about the Nautilus. How fast can a Nautilus go? So this is my Nautilus spawn egg, and I'll put my Nautilus right here on the side of my boat. You can, by the way, spawn these totally fine above ground, and they will eventually suffocate, but you can actually, if you feel like it, you can actually give them all the pufferfish you need to breed them on the ground, if you don't mind them eventually suffocating. But let's get one in the sea right here, because they will naturally spawn in ocean biomes, and then if you give them enough pufferfish, buckets or regular fish will count, so ones you fished or ones you killed or put in a bucket. In either case it works, and once you tame them, you can put a saddle on them. See, die from dehydration. I believe that is a brand new message, because we've never had a pet before that can die of dehydration, to the best of my knowledge. So yeah, you can see this brand new effect on the top left. This is what is called Breath of the Nautilus. On Bedrock, this will look hugely different, and we'll talk more about Bedrock later, by the way. I know, we're here on Java, and my world that's clearly for the Bedrock preview, but we'll come back to that. So the Nautilus is very interesting, because by itself, it's actually kind of whelming. I think they have variable speeds, because this is going faster than my previous one, but what makes this really cool is it has a dash attack, like the camel, which means that, as you can see, we can actually get some real speed going here, and even use this if we want to, just like so. Okay, let's get this done. So let's get a boost, and woo, yeah! It is really, really cool and really, really fun. I don't agree that this entirely replaces everything else, but the answer to what happens when it goes on land is it dehydrates, and how fast can it go? Pretty fast. I would say faster than a boat, but obviously slower than an ice boat. But if you're in an ocean, this is now the new fastest way to get around. So the boat is truly being turning into the ice roads or early game tool, which is useful, I guess we could say. So next up is, can a zombie Nautilus be cured? This is the zombie Nautilus spawn egg. If you spawn them on the ground, by the way, unlike a zombie Nautilus, oh, okay, maybe not. If you spawn them on the ground, they start catching on fire, which is interesting because a regular Nautilus does not. But if you don't catch it on fire, because it's underneath, it's not exposed to sunlight, can you cure these and turn them into regular Nautiluses? Will they be grateful for that? Well, the answer is no. Here is me trying the exact same pattern as with a zombie villager. Therefore, they cannot be cured, and he's dead. Although this guy is not dead yet. There's still time to cure him so that I can get that brand new dehydration message. Because let's be honest, now is your quick little reminder. You need to drink water. Probably. I mean, you know, actually, definitely. We all need to drink water as a species. Next question. So I think the next important question was, okay, zombie horse. The zombie horse is a new mount that, as far as I can tell, isn't spawning yet out in the wild with the zombie dudes on it, but is the zombie horse worth using over a regular one? Well, here is the catch on that, I would say. This is, as you can see, a zombie horse that I put armor on, but if he doesn't have armor on and he's exposed to the light, he does start burning. Therefore, this is a worse than normal horse because it's a regular horse, except it burns to death if it doesn't have armor on. So that is the way in which it's immediately worse. Is it better in any ways? No, actually. It has, as far as I can tell, within the same confines of jump, health, and speed. So if you want a cool horse, and in exchange, don't mind the chance of it dying, because unlike a skeleton horse, you do need a saddle. I can't ride this at all. We have a regular horse, but worse. So, is it worth having? Yeah, because it looks cool. But keep in mind, this is a impractical looks cool. It's not a, oh yeah, it's practical in this really niche situation. At least not that we found. So, can the zombie horse breathe underwater is the next valid question. And so, let's grab our axe. Let's make it nice and easy to get out of here. And let's bring the horse underwater and see what happens to it. This is a question I'm going to be finding out live with you. Because, you know, I feel like this is the sort of thing you have to find out that, oh, he's floating, which to me implies that he must not have oxygen. As you all know, if you summon a skeleton horse, let's do that right now. If we summon ourselves a skeleton horses deliberately will sink to the bottom of the oceans, and they will be able to breathe when you're down there. But apparently, zombie horses are not following in their footsteps. This could change later, but for now, this is how it is. So next up, we have the question relating to the zombie special. You know, next up we have the question relating to Nautilus Armour, because I couldn't help but be curious, if gold horse armor was 7 armor, and diamond horse armor was 11, would the Netherite horse and Nautilus armor be just as good? And then just be like Netherite, where it's more knockback resistance? And 2 answers to your question here. One is that the Netherite Nautilus armor is obtained by taking regular diamond Nautilus armor and putting a smithing template on it. But the answer to how much better it gets is it goes from 11 armor and 2 toughness to 19 armor, 3 toughness, and knockback resistance. If you love your Nautilus enough to spend a Netherite ingot on, then you will find it worthwhile. And so there is still no Netherite horse armor. This has not been added yet. Horse armor goes from leather to diamond, whereas Nautilus armor goes from copper to Netherite. This is confusing, and I feel like it's one of those clear, they will add it later sorts of things, but not everything that seems clear will be added later actually does come. Speaking of things that do not come, let's talk about my opinion on the zombie spear here, because ultimately this is one of the big questions about the zombie horse. It is a fierce, in the same way that having trident throwing, drowns on top of Nautiluses will make the oceans more dangerous. Your plains and your savanna biomes will also do the same. And so here's the question, is this gonna work? Well, I've got myself a command right here that will allow me to spawn a zombie with a copper spear. I'll do this maybe below deck though. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna do this and then jump into survival. So this is my zombie and this is me in survival. And here's something interesting. You can see that by default he charges, but because he's charging all the time, it means it's your speed running into him that affects how much damage he does. If I wait for him to get to me, he does half the damage twice. If I sprint into him, which I'm gonna do because I'm an idiot. Oh, he's not actually charging yet. He has to wait to cool down. Oh, that's so interesting. They've got the behavior to know, because like when you hold this spear, as you can see, it actually interestingly has this effect where you eventually start wobbling like this and you can't charge anymore. But what's interesting is he's smart enough to know he's cooling down, so he goes back and runs away from it. Super interesting. Next question, does he drop the spear when he has one? Oh, I'm gonna die, aren't I? Okay, let's jab him from just the right distance away. The answer is sometimes it's dependent on the same chances as everything else, so just keep that in mind. And the other question we had was, will it break spears? So here is a zombie, here is me with a shield. Shields work very differently on Java. You have to hold right-click, you can't just crouch. And here you can see that he cannot break the spear, but he does use up his durability, meaning that there is some new I think this is the perfect time to nerf the shield, because now the shield has an extra use in preventing a charge attack, and then while you're cooling down, doing other things. So yeah, as you can see, super weird. Also, you can't use a shield and a spear because the spear has a right-click attack, which changes everything. Also, did you know Nautiluses can fall from a high place? Now you do. So that is every single one of my first 11 questions answered. And so there you go. There is everything you need to know. If you're curious, because I know you are, that's like my kind of first impressions. The things I found along the way while working on this video were very, very interesting. The first is that a gold spear will be picked up by piglins. That's fun. The second is that you can actually enchant. Yeah, whether they change this or not is a different question. But you can actually enchant your spear with sharpness 5. This balances out a lot of the downside by giving you a weapon that has 5 damage plus the sharpness 5, which I believe is an extra 4. So a 9 damage spear versus, say, a 13 damage sword. Honestly, it closes the gap a lot and makes this a lot more viable. There is one unique enchantment for the spear. It's called Lunge, and you can read about it here. And yeah, again, the zombie horse is something that I have a lot of curiosities about. But so far, this is a very solid, very fun drop. And so far, I would say the clear highlight is the Nautilus. Having a new way to cross oceans is awesome. And the spear seems just kind of bad to me. This is my honest take so far. I think the spear is being deliberately put in the game kind of bad so that it can be made better later. Let me give you my biggest proof as to why this is true. Look at all of the spears side by side. In fact, I'll show you my chest because they're so perfectly laid out on here. So if we come back to my Toycat preview, again, we're definitely playing the preview and not the snapshot right now. Look at all of the spears side by side and notice how the wooden spear has more speed than the highest spear. So every spear slightly increases the damage and decreases the speed, but one of the dumb things about copper is copper swords and stone swords deal the same damage, but because spears get worse as they go up, the stone spear does just 2 damage. So weak. You would never bother with this unless you have some crazy shenanigans planned. The stone spear does just 2 damage. The copper spear also does 2 damage, but with a lower attack speed. This means that if you had a copper spear and a stone spear, there would be no good reason to use the copper spear. It has less time to be held down, and it has a lower attack speed. And so what is the point of the copper spear? Mojang is going to have to come out and answer that, I guess. I think it's slightly more enchantable, and it has slightly more durability, but is that worthwhile? That's the question I'll leave all of you with, because I've got 2 last things to conclude with. One is that this is going to be a far more interesting preview than Snapshot. On Java, the combat works in a very weird way where they've already got delays. The spear is going to have a deliberate delay on Bedrock. That will change the maths of how things work a lot. In my opinion, it's going to be hugely interesting. And then also, it changes the the equations on, like, well, if the mace does 5 damage and has a massive upside potential, then is a Netherite spear going to be better than the mace or worse than the mace? On Java, so far, it's a little better than the mace because of a higher attack speed and more, functionality, except the mace then has unique enchantments. On Bedrock, things are going to be hugely different, and that is hugely interesting. Speaking of hugely interesting, I hope you have all enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to like, favorite, and subscribe, and ask any questions in the comments, because obviously the Q&A is going to focus on some of your biggest ones about this snapshot today. Well, this weekend. Thank you for watching. Thank you for watching a very weird Thursday snapshot review, and I'll see you all in the next one. Adieu. I don't think it's adieu, is it? Is it adieu? It's like without further ado. Goodbye.